Hello, everybody. My name is Roman. This is Mark.
Good morning.
We come from Janeious, and we have a story to tell. A fundraising story, actually, without tax credits, without venture funds, and without Kickstarter. And we actually raised about £1 million. So how did we do that? And that's what I want to tell you, just to introduce my co-founder, Mark. He is a mobile game development professional who breathes games, has been in the industry for many years, and has even had top 10 hits, and an amazing co-founder to have. And my name is Romain Schneider. I come from a completely different industry. I was in banking, strategy consulting, and then something happened which made me drop everything that I had, the career, and just go for something completely different, which is games, with a crazy passion. And on this journey, there were a lot of things that made me go crazy, but in the end, we are moving with what we did, and we're succeeding with making the game that the people that inspired me, the community which is behind us, want to have. So let me start with the basics. So usually, back when I was in finance, it was all about three things when you want to get money. So I was on the other side of the table, and I had to make investment decisions. And I was always saying that, first of all, if you want to get somebody to invest, three things. Find and create your USP. Have something which makes you special and gets other people to think, okay, this is something new, this is different, I can invest into that. But this is not enough. You can have something original in your head. It can be fantastic. But the problem is, you need to find those who understand it, those who get it. And I felt it myself over the last 2 years. You can waste insane amount of time on people who actually have a lot of money, who just got quick cash or old cash, doesn't matter, who invest into, in your mind, maybe stupid things that can never make it. And you have this great product, but they will not invest into your product. Why? Again, because they don't get it. Investors tend to invest only in what they understand, no matter how easy the cash sits. And I've wasted months of my time on those people, and it was very difficult to convince them to invest anything, and in the end, it all failed. So that's the second thing. So everybody will tell you, get a USP. But it's get a USP that somebody you can actually get access to understands. And that makes it much more difficult. And then the last thing, also easier said than done, is show that you can deliver. So you can have the greatest idea, you can have a person or a group of people who believe that you can actually do it, but then there's the whole issue of actually doing it. And it's not only about doing it, actually. You have to show that you can do it every single step on the way. Because you will see that the money doesn't come at once. It will come in parts and tranches. And you need always to think ahead of how can you make sure that this money, that investors with the money actually want to continue investing, believe in you, and they keep confidence. Because you cannot just lock yourself into a building, disappear for 2 years, and then come out with a great product. You would like to do that, but in reality, it doesn't work. So what did we do? What was our USP? Who was the one who understood it? And how did we convince those that we actually could do it? In our case, our USP was I come from a community of gamers. We spent a lot of money on mobile games. We mainly spent it because when we were young, when we were students, we loved playing and we were super competitive. But when we grew up, we started to have families, we started to have wives and who didn't like games, and life became difficult, gaming life, I mean. So the realities of life were we wanted to play competitively, be the best, and enjoy competition with our friends, but we couldn't. So we became increasingly frustrated over time, and then mobile games came along, and we had some hope because this was mobile, portable, and you could play wherever you want. But then suddenly we discovered that you need a lot of time for it, nevertheless. So in spite of it being a device, you spend hours and hours grinding away on your mobile, or you have to leave the mobile running with the game, which you can't show to anybody, and it became difficult. So, and especially we were busy, so the game said if you spend money, you achieve more. Okay, we started spending money, and the worst thing happened. It wanted more time from me. So we were spending, and it punished us by making us play more, which was like very counterintuitive. So basically the community was saying we want something else. So we came up with a concept together about making a game that actually doesn't consume the time from those who spend and don't want to invest so much time, but have some money, while at the same time keeping it fun for everybody who actually wants to invest the time. And this was an incredible bridge to do, but that was our proposition. And once the community saw the ideas and the concept, they said, yeah, we believe in it. And the community, when I say it, we communicate, we play games together. So we communicate in Line Messenger, Discord, Skype, we meet up. So this is like people you randomly meet in games. But we all had the same problem. And those were the people who understood. Because they knew, okay, if such a game exists, that's something they would play. And they would spend. And therefore, it made a lot of sense for them to invest. Many of them actually had the same idea. So, but they just didn't have the time to do it. So I was the one who they pushed to sacrifice everything, drop the career, risk the stability of my home, and I had a baby daughter just born. It's the worst possible timing, but sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. And yeah, I plunged and went for it. So I had the two ingredients, the USP, the one who wants to invest, but then how to show it. And you know, it's disaster if somebody who's a player has no clue about game development tries to make a game. This cannot be good. And I knew it, I didn't try, so that's when I actually found Mark. And that's somebody who looked like he could make it, but unfortunately he had a completely different idea of how mobile games should look like. So we had this constant fight, and Mark will later tell you about the result of that fight, but I think it actually created really great dynamics and allowed us to do great things. And then we started doing showcases. So basically, always bringing a new version out, showing our gamers that we basically can do it, and they started believing in it. Initially, we had visuals that looked like, I don't know, floating fishbowl arenas, and it was quite embarrassing, but even that actually showed them that we are going into the right direction. So what I'm saying is it's very important to basically show your progress, be ready to show where you are, even if you are not there yet, if you are embarrassed. And that's basically what we did and how we raised money. Initially, the first guys gave us like 150,000, and then others saw it gets more, and it works. The guys are doing something. We had actually the community play the game in an early stage, and eventually, yeah, it got more people got in. They joined us from other games because they understand it. We want to play games. We want to have that chance to do it competitively, without basically risking our lives and disappearing in the mobile gaming world. And the solution is basically to play it in your head and have completely no restrictions on on the length of the play session at a given point of time.
So maybe let me butt in here for 1 second real quick, just because that might have not been very clear. We're not working with publishers, we're not working with angels, we're not working with venture funds. The people that gave us that money, more than €1 million euros by now, are all hardcore gamers. And we're not talking about 50,000 of them Kickstarter-like. We're talking about maybe 20 people that have all invested at least 5,000 or more, usually more in the range of 50,000 to 100,000, into a company for us to make a game for that specific target group, which is a target group of people 30 years plus, highly spending people, very little time, but really into making these hardcore competitive games, showing off against each other, building this great community. Those are the people that we got money from, right? So some of them might be investors in their real life, and that might be their job, but they're not investing in us because they want to see a return of investment as their primary purpose. Obviously, they would like to have one at some point, and we're aiming to give it to them. But they are gamers. They invested in us because they want the game that we've pitched to be made.
And this leads me to my tips and tricks and the things that we learned while doing it, because obviously nobody will copy our USP, or it's a difficult thing to do. But while doing it, we learned a lot about fundraising, and we made a lot of mistakes. And we're here to share this with you, and we'll hopefully be able to give you some ideas and pointers that will help you in your journey. So first of all, there is clever structuring. Clever structuring is linking to what Mark said about the 5,000 plus. We made a conscious decision. We didn't want to go for the crowd. We wanted to go for people who actually have the money and can invest in our case. Also, we wanted to prove that the gamers behind us are actually quite big spenders and they can afford it. So in our case, we had to put a minimum of 5,000 for investment and reject everybody who offered us 4,999 or anything less. Which was difficult, to be honest, because you want to take the money, but sometimes the decision is you need to do what you plan and follow it through, even though it seems difficult and you're rejecting stuff. So clever structuring. There is a lot of ways to finance, and we thought long and hard, how will we actually get that money? Because if you get it through crowdfunding, the problem is that it's sales, so you will have VAT on it, and you lose a lot of money, then it's taxed, because it's a return. So it wasn't the right solution. Equity is nice, but of course, as a founder, you don't want to give everything away, especially at a low valuation in the beginning. You just want to go get somewhere and then already get people in. So we gave away equity, but we couldn't give it to everybody. So we needed a third solution. So in this case, we came up with a different structure, which we called investment units. So basically, it was a loan and a revenue share in one. So what we did is they basically gave us the money, lent us the money, and we pay them back with a high multiple from our profit. So they get, and once a certain amount is reached, it's gone. So the loan is paid back, which is nice for us because we didn't have to share the money until we are ready to share it. So until we have profits, we don't have to give them anything. Once we do, we give a certain percentage away, and after a certain time, once the investment basically matures, they are out and we can continue growing. So that was the solution we used in the beginning, especially when the valuation was low. But this leads me to the second point. I mean, they say cash is king, and in my strategy times, they used to joke and say, no, equity is better, equity is king, Kong. So the idea was that equity is what investors want. And when we talked to VCs and other people, it turned out that many rejected us because of our funding structure. They said, you have this strange investment unit, you have the profit shares. We don't want that. We want companies that are fully, basically equity founded, that have funding rounds, traditional stuff. So keep that in mind. So if you're going for VCs, then stay close to equity, and you might have to give some away or get other money. But as soon as you have revenue shares and other things in, they might not like it because of that structure. And you'll have to buy out the people, and it creates a lot of problems. Next thing is tax credits. So when it comes to tax credits, we learned that you can get tax credits as not necessarily a UK company. We're an Irish company, and we're now about to qualify for tax credits. Important thing to know. We didn't know. We lost a lot of money because you can only get the tax credit once you have a permanent establishment in the UK, which doesn't take much. So if you want to do that, keep that in mind. You can get them, and yeah, you can ping me if you want some advice on that. And the rest, well, let Mark show you what we are doing to explain what the community is actually investing in.
All right, so I'm going to do this really briefly because we only have about 2 minutes time, but I'm trying to make sure that you still get what we're talking about. So I'm going to skip that slide real quick. So what you see in the background is the actual screenshot of our current version that we're actually having with us and showing off. It is a very simple core loop behind that game, which is basically what a lot of other companies are doing as well. Like, we're not claiming that our core loop is anything innovative because we don't need to. That's not where we're trying to innovate. But we are trying to innovate on certain small details on it. And you'll see on that slide that there's 3 things that have dollar signs on it and 2 things that have a kind of like a stopwatch on it. And the stopwatch is the important part I'm going to talk about real soon. So the 3 things with the dollar sign is what you usually monetize. You usually monetize selling stuff in games. You usually monetize equipment or new units or cards or skills, all these kinds of things. These are the things you classically monetize, which works, which we're doing as well. And then you have two other things that often people monetize, which is energy systems, or where if you want to play in a game like Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, you might need energy or tickets to fight against somebody else. And that's something that works, but what we found in our community is they don't want to be bothered with that. What they want is they have 5 minutes right now to play. They want to get into a game, they want to play that right now, they want to play round, go back out, do their meetings, go to conference, and have fun. So we found out that what we need to do to achieve that is we need to find a way to split the player base. We have the non-payers and we have the high-spending players, and somehow we need to get them all in the same game world without alienating either of them. So what we found out is that there's a really, really nice problem that turned out that if we solve that, is actually an advantage for us. So imagine you are one of those super whales, so super VIPs that spend a lot of money in games. That usually means you have very little time. You might have family, you might have one or more companies that you run, you might be a successful manager that works 60 to 80 hours a week. So you don't have a lot of time, and your time is often very chaotically separated throughout the week. So for example, if you're here right now at Pocket Gamer, but there's a really cool event going on at the same time, you either have to sit here, listen to us while you're also playing the game, which, by the way, if you are, that's fine with us. But there might be cases where you can't do that. And so you're losing out on stuff on the game that you want to be competitive about, that you want to really be good about. So what we found out is that there's a really easy way of solving that, is take the non-paying, take the people that have a lot of time, that do want to invest more time in a game, but they don't have the funds and the money to do that, and let them help the payers. And the way we're doing that is with this. So if I'm a high-paying spender, I can have my account and I can share my account with other people, but not in the way that I'm giving my email and my password out, which is, number one, usually not allowed, number two, not really likely to be seen on app stores or anywhere. But in our case, what we do is we're lending your character to another player temporarily, but you have full control of what they can do with it. So if I want to have Roman, for example, play with my character, I might give him the permission to only play the daily events. Or I might give somebody else the permission to use my full account, including using the money that I put into the account. But if I don't trust him yet, I might just not say that. I might just not check the box that says, okay, you can actually use the credits or the currency in the game. I might just give him the allowance to only play story mode. Additionally, we can set rewards for that. So because obviously you want to get something for the time that you invest into somebody else's character and account. So what we're giving you is we're giving him the option to say, well, actually, if you complete all my daily missions today, you and on your account will get something from my account, some bonus currency, some bonus coins, something like that. So we're motivating high spenders and low spenders to work together so that instead of what you usually have in a lot of those games is like the clash between, well, you're just paying to win because there's this disconnect between those two types of players. And what we're doing, we're bringing them together. We're making them feel like a team because both have disadvantages and advantages. And we're not quite sure why nobody else has ever done that, because it's the first thing every single person of those super whales that we talked to has told us, like, I don't have time to play. Like, give me something, give me a way to interact in the game. Give me something, a way to be competitive without having to spend hours and hours every day, because I can't do that. That is a really quickly overview.
Questions?
Obviously, because I don't think we have time for questions.
1 minute.
One minute.
Question.
So we have time for questions, but the important part is we'll be here. Please, if you have any questions, we're an open book. Ask us. We'll answer whatever question you have. But so for that one question, I think that we have time for. Any questions? I think there's a mic coming somewhere. I don't really see anything.
Okay. Has your game actually been released, and is it profitable as a game?
No. Well, kind of. So we have a community that's very, very active already. We have Discord channels, Facebook channels, all that kind of stuff. We have a community that's already playing the game. But we are going to go into soft launch by July this year. At least that's a current plan. Obviously, things might change. But the plan is to go soft launch July this year, release early next year. We have a current community that's playing the game every day. They're already having fun with it. So we're already getting the data. We're already getting KPIs from those people. So we're getting there.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions?
All right. Thank you.
Sorry. One of the biggest things that I noticed, so my background's in esports, so
Nice.
you have things like the international stuff, which a lot of people may or may not know of in the room. So, I mean, how do you get the players engaged in a level where they become almost like seed investors essentially in these games companies, but you have that progress actually through the lifespan of the company by essentially, I don't know, commoditizing the community essentially, where they're helping build more value and content in that type of way. So, I mean, how do you guys see it going from the beginning to essentially, I would say, $1 billion plus company in that type of way, what Valve has done?
Yeah, so there's two things that we're doing to get the community a little bit more involved than just kind of playing the game. Number one is we hired a London-based writer who came up with this really nice concept of building a story in such a way that if you complete an event as a player, number one, your character will become part of that story, become part of the next events, and will at some point actually become a boss fight in our game that every other character can and every other player can then fight. So we're kind of having this evolving world where every time a player does something awesome in a game, they'll become part of that game. And by that, we're hoping to build this almost like a meta community around the game that's kind of pushing the game forward and creating their own stories, and we're kind of working with those stories. And the second part is we're having something called faction, which are these giant teams that are batting against each other, which are made up of several smaller teams. And you have to choose which faction you belong to, which means that you have these giant meta wars between multiple teams, hundreds of players, thousands of players, batting against each other to push their faction forward. And that's a recurring event that will happen every month or every 2 months for especially that purpose, with the best rewards in the game. And that's kind of something that we repeatedly are going to continually improve on in hopes to get not necessarily the full esports environment. Like honestly, we're not a mobile game. Dota is international. That's a whole different beast. So I don't think we're ever going to get to that point. But we're going to try to figure out what we can do on that device that we have and with the community that I have to get to something like that level.
And the third thing is we actually keep them close, and they treat a developer like friends and who understands them. And we try to keep this also when we grow. If we succeed that, they will be close just because they feel like it's family. And that's as important as the game itself, because they need to feel that they're treated right, especially if they invest time and money in it. Yeah.
Right, thank you. I think we're going to be thrown off otherwise.
Sorry, yeah.
We'll be here. Talk to us if you want to know any more. Thank you very much.
Okay.